Hey guys, in today's video, discover the breathtaking story of Barrett Lysander, a jeweler who, after a near-death experience, had visions about the future of humanity. Between an apocalypse and possible salvation, what he saw on the other side challenges all our beliefs. Leave your like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss this surprising journey. My name is Barrett Lysander, and I never imagined I would be here, sharing an experience that defies everything I believed possible. As a jeweler and businessman, I have always been a practical man, focused on tangible results. My world revolved around precious stones, noble metals, and measurable values. The beauty I knew was in the lasting shine of the gems I sold, in the precision of the cuts, in the purity of the materials. For years, I have built my reputation in the jewelry market through hard work and dedication. He regularly participated in international fairs and events, always looking for the best pieces and commercial connections. He was a businessman who only believed in what he could see, touch, and value. Life, for me, was a logical sequence of cause and effect, of investments and returns. It was in February 1994 that everything changed. I was in Tucson, Arizona, attending the International Gems and Minerals Fair, one of the most important events in our sector. It was an opportunity to network, close significant deals, and stay up to date with market trends. The event was running smoothly, and I felt in my element doing what I did best. The fourth day of the event started like any other, but quickly turned into the moment that would divide my life into before and after. I remember I was talking to a supplier about a shipment of sapphires when I started to feel sick. An intense fever took over my body, accompanied by pain that I had never experienced before. The weakness was overwhelming, as if every cell in my body was losing energy simultaneously. The next few moments are a blur in my memory. I vaguely remember worried voices, people supporting me, an ambulance arriving. The world around me seemed to be dissolving, and I was losing control over my own reality. That's when it all began, an experience that would completely change my understanding of life, death, and the purpose of our existence. My first clear memory after the breakdown was one of the most surreal I have ever experienced. I found myself floating above my own body, observing the scene like a detached spectator. There I was, lying in the hospital bed, surrounded by doctors and nurses working frantically. It was an indescribable feeling, seeing my own physical body there, while I existed in a completely different state. The most extraordinary thing was the clarity with which I perceived everything. There was no confusion or fear, just a crystal clear awareness of every detail around me. I could see the worried expressions of the medical team, hear their voices discussing my condition, observe every movement and procedure they performed. It was as if all my senses were amplified, operating at a level far beyond normal. In this state, I realized that I was experiencing something that was beyond common understanding. I was no longer limited by the physical restrictions of my body. I could move freely around the space, walk through walls, observe other areas of the hospital. It was as if the laws of physics no longer applied to me. The reality I knew, based on matter and physical limitations, had dissolved. It was at that moment that I noticed something even more extraordinary. A bright green mist began to form around me. It wasn't just a light or a visual phenomenon. It was something alive, pulsating, that seemed to emanate an indescribable energy of love and acceptance. This fog not only enveloped me, but seemed to communicate with me on a deep level, conveying a sense of safety and belonging that I had never experienced before. I felt an irresistible pull, as if a gentle but powerful force was calling me upward. It was a calling that could not be ignored, not out of fear or obligation, but because every part of my being recognized that it was the natural next step in this extraordinary journey. I was about to embark on an experiment that would challenge everything I believed I knew about reality. The green mist that surrounded me began to transform, and I found myself being led into an indescribable tunnel of light. It wasn't just an illuminated path. It was a living spectacle of colors and energies that danced and mixed in patterns that defied any earthly description. The colors transcended any spectrum I had ever seen in my life as a jeweler, and I was well aware of the most beautiful manifestations of color in precious stones. The movement through this tunnel was smooth and natural, as if I were being carried by a current of pure love. Light wasn't just something I saw, it was something I felt, breathed, and fused with. Every moment in that tunnel seemed to contain eternities of experience and understanding. Time, as we know it, simply did not exist there. As I progressed, I realized that the tunnel was more than a passage. It was a living, conscious environment that responded to my presence. The colors moved and changed not randomly, but in response to my thoughts and emotions. It was as if every nuance of light carried profound messages, ancient knowledge that was transmitted directly to my soul. The feeling of love and welcome intensified with each moment. It was a love unlike anything I had ever experienced on Earth, unconditional, universal, completely all-encompassing. In that moment, I understood that this was the true nature of the universe, not the cold matter and measurable values I was used to dealing with, but this infinite, transformative love. During this passage through the tunnel, I felt as if every part of my being was being purified and elevated to a higher state of consciousness. Memories of my life began to emerge, not as simple memories, but as vivid experiences that I could understand from a much broader and deeper perspective. It was as if I was seeing my own existence through the eyes of the universe. Upon emerging from the tunnel of light, I found myself in an environment that transcended any earthly description. There, to my surprise and delight, I met familiar faces, my grandfather, my mother, and even a friend who had left in my youth. But they weren't just apparitions or memories. They were real, vibrant presences that seemed to be part of the very light that surrounded us. What impressed me most was how they seemed to be perfectly integrated into that bright environment. They weren't just people as I knew them on Earth. They were beings of light who maintained the characteristics that made them recognizable, but emanated a much higher and purer energy. Their smiles conveyed a love and wisdom that surpassed any earthly experience. Communication there happened in a completely different way. We didn't need words. Thoughts and feelings flowed naturally between us, like a harmonious dance of energy and understanding. It was as if we were all part of the same consciousness, sharing a deep and universal understanding. Seeing my loved ones in that state of peace and wholeness was a profoundly transformative experience. There was no sadness, no regret, no pain, just pure joy and unconditional love that seemed to permeate every moment of their reunion. They showed me, without words, that death is not an end, but a transformation, a passage to a higher and truer state of existence. It was then that a special presence manifested itself, a female figure enveloped in a soft golden light, who introduced herself as Seraphina. Her appearance was ethereal. Her features emanated a beauty that transcended earthly standards. She approached with a knowing smile, and I immediately felt a deep connection to her energy. Seraphina explained that I was about to receive a rare and powerful gift, knowledge that was meant to be shared with the world. His presence conveyed a serene yet welcoming authority. It was as if she were a guardian of ancient truths, a mentor appointed to guide souls through crucial moments of transformation. With her, I understood that my experience was not just a personal journey, but part of something much bigger. Seraphina showed me that each soul has a unique purpose, and that sometimes we are chosen to serve as messengers, bridges between different levels of consciousness. The golden light that surrounded her seemed to pulse with a life of its own, creating patterns and shapes that conveyed profound messages directly to my consciousness. His presence was simultaneously powerful and gentle, and his every gesture seemed to carry multiple meanings that I could understand on increasingly deeper levels. The light around us began to expand, and Seraphina began what would be one of the most profound parts of my experience, my life review. It wasn't like watching a movie. It was reliving each moment with an expanded consciousness, feeling not only my own emotions but also the impact my actions had on other people. I saw my childhood, my professional achievements, but also every mistake I made. Every harsh word I spoke, every thoughtless act, returned with overwhelming intensity. However, there was no judgment, just understanding and learning. The most surprising thing was realizing how small acts of kindness, which seemed insignificant to me at the time, had a profound impact on other people's lives. Memories of my days as a paramedic in my youth took on new meaning. I could see how each life I helped save created ripples of transformation that extended far beyond that immediate moment. I saw people I helped without even realizing it. Moments when a simple smile or kind word changed the course of someone's day. Seraphina guided me through these visions with infinite compassion, showing me how everything is interconnected, how every action, every choice, contributes to the greater fabric of existence. The pain of negative actions mixed with the joy of positive ones, creating a complete panorama of what it means to be human. With a soft wave, Seraphina led me to what she called the events hall, It was an immense, almost infinite space, where sparkling crystals reflected visions from different times. Each crystal seemed to contain entire worlds, future possibilities that depended on humanity's collective choices. In the first scenario I was shown, I saw a disturbing vision of the future. Cities were in ruins. People were fighting for basic resources like water and food. The air was heavy with pollution, and nature seemed to have recoiled from human greed. Families were fragmented, communities were destroyed, and the planet seemed exhausted, as if it had reached the limit of its carrying capacity. In stark contrast, another scenario revealed itself, a future of hope and harmony. The Earth had transformed into a vibrant garden, where technology and nature coexisted in perfect balance. I saw communities working together, people using their talents for the common good, and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Serafina explained that these futures were not predetermined. They were possibilities, paths that depended on the choices we would make as a species. The most impressive thing was to see how small changes in consciousness, when multiplied by millions of people, could completely alter the course of the future. It was then that Serafina revealed to me what she called the principles of enlightenment, 9 universal laws designed to guide humanity toward a brighter future. These principles were not mere rules or guidelines. They were fundamental truths that resonated with ancient and profound wisdom. Some of the principles talked about the importance of listening to our own intuition, that inner voice that we often ignore in our daily rush. Others emphasized respecting others as ourselves, recognizing that each human being is a unique expression of universal consciousness. There were specific principles about our relationship with Mother Earth, emphasizing the need to treat her not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living being that deserves our respect and protection. Serafina explained that these principles, if followed, could lead us to that future of light and prosperity that had been shown in the Hall of Events. They were not complex or inaccessible concepts, but rather simple and profound truths that, when applied, had the power to completely transform our individual and collective reality. The way these principles were conveyed was unique. Each of them was accompanied not just by mental understanding, but by a direct experience of their truth. It was as if each principle was engraved not just in my memory, but in every fiber of my being. Just when I thought I would forever remain in that state of expanded understanding, Serafina gently touched my shoulder and said that my mission was not yet over. "You must go back and share these principles, Barrett. The world needs to wake up," she said in a voice that mixed authority and compassion. I felt immediate resistance to the idea of returning. How could I return to the density of physical existence after experiencing such an expansion of consciousness? I begged to stay, to continue learning and evolving in that state of pure light and understanding. But Serafina showed me, with infinite kindness, that my return was a crucial part of the greater purpose. In the blink of an eye, I felt a sharp pain and found myself back in my body in the hospital. The transition was abrupt and intense. Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness or fear, but from a deep gratitude for the experience I had lived and the mission I now knew I needed to fulfill. Returning brought with it an immense challenge: how to share such a transcendental experience in a world that only values the tangible and measurable. How can we convey such profound truths using our limited language? The biggest challenge after my return has been getting people to understand and accept the depth of the experience I lived. My wife Lana was the first person I shared everything with, and her faith in me was unwavering. She saw the transformation that occurred in my essence and believed every word I said. However, when I tried to share it with friends and colleagues, I was met with skepticism and even laughter of disbelief. Evan, my longtime friend, initially looked at me like I was delusional. However, over time, even he began to realize that something in me had fundamentally changed. The person who returned was not the same person who had left. Each day became an opportunity to try to pass on what I learned. But the weight of this mission is greater than I ever imagined. I feel as if every moment is precious, as if the future of humanity depends on our ability to embrace these higher truths and transform the way we live. I know many won't believe my story, and that doesn't matter to me anymore. My hope is that those who are ready can hear and reflect on these messages. We are at a crucial moment in our evolution as a species, on the verge of a great leap in consciousness or an irreparable fall. The choice between love and selfishness, between unity and destruction, is in our hands. If you like this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.